Hi, I'm Andrew Giannattasio. I'm one of the owners of GTG Builders, and I'm really excited to talk to you today because I'm seeing so many negative things in the news and on social media, but in my business, things are positive. And I wanted to share that with you because I think other people need to hear it. Other small business owners need to know that there are positive things going on. So I'm getting more calls than I normally would, even for spring, which is a busy time in my office. But I'm hearing people call. They're optimistic that the economy is going to come back. They want to talk about building a custom home now. And one of the reasons is that interest rates are so low that people can afford to do more house than they could have 6 months ago. Or some people that were on the bubble about being able to afford a new custom home can now afford it. Monthly payments are more affordable, 3.5%. And I think it's a great time to start having the conversation about building a custom. So one of the things I did was I had a conversation with Tom Coronato. He's a finance expert, construction lending as far as my business is concerned. I use him for a lot of my custom home clients. We send them to him. He's the expert on construction loans and financing. And I had a conversation with him. We videotaped it. Tom and I talked about things that are going on. I think it's exciting. And if you're somebody that's been thinking about building a custom home and you're wondering about questions in the market, I thought it'd be a great time to bring Tom on and take a look.
We're just sort of business as usual, but what I'm noticing is my friends and family, coworkers, people I talk to, they're not looking at me as being an outlier, but now looking at it like, wow, I'm able to do this too. Like people, like this meeting wouldn't have happened so much if we even didn't have.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we've changed. We're starting to make changes the way we're doing business, and some of them are going to stick around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I did a podcast with Simplex. I mean, I do a lot of modular stuff, as you guys know.
Yep.
So like a lot of the manufacturers in South Carolina, like I have one right after you guys, Ken Semler, who's with Express Modular. He does national stuff. This is the kind of stuff that they're saying, like, it's just so different. But from a standpoint of, like, I travel a lot. Like, I'll come home and I'll spend 2 weeks and I'll just go out on the road and try and meet with you guys and the different builders and friends and, have a better relationship with. But now the relationship, this is the first time in my career of 23 years that I've actually had my partners calling me going, how can you help me? They've always called and said,
really,
that they know that I can help, right?
Yeah.
Because they're sending me loans and they know that we're reliable, or at least maybe I'm reliable because there's no perfect bank, right? So, but now they're saying, hey, what suggestions do you have? What do you see in the industry? And I'm sitting here going like, I'm 52 going, God, when do you get out of the business? Like I'm looking at the retirement plan of 10, 15 years down the road. And in the meantime, I'm going, now I'm at the point where I wanted to be when I was 30.
Yeah.
But at 30, you can never be where you're at today.
No, you can't. So tell me from the bank side of the world, what's going on today? How is your life different? And not so much with COVID, but just generally markets are so different financially, the impact financially. What's going on with you?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of negative press, which I know doesn't surprise folks. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. But the industry has definitely seen a change. This is my opinion, but from what we see, where banking guidelines for some of the smaller banks, I've had my competitors get out of the industry already. Some lenders are not even looking at the construction world. Others are not even, they've raised their guideline to where folks need 20% or 25% down. They've changed maybe credit score requirements so that anything below 720 they don't even consider. They've made stricter guidelines. It's very similar to 2008, although in 2008 it was a different crisis. Here you have a pent-up demand for people to want to get out and spend money, and people want to work. We're just not allowing them to. So there's a very different, world that we see. The lower end, or like the first-time buyer programs and Fannie, Freddie, you can see that they've changed their FICO requirements, and it's been very hard for brokers to be competitive. because it seems like a secondary market is controlling that. In a case where I'm a bank, it's different, and what we do together, we're lending portfolio money, and that's pretty much east of the Mississippi, for lending purposes. And in our area where it's bank footprint, it is sort of business as usual, but there's some different guidelines that affect even us.
So I'm getting more phone calls than I was a month ago, honestly. And it's, I think, a combination of some people have some extra time on their hands. Some people, for some reason, are feeling some level of confidence. I have to believe that it's the lower interest rates that are making them call. What are you having conversations that are different now due to the lower interest rates?
Not so much. But yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like, I have a lot of inquiries of previous clients for refinancing, but then, you have the two side of things where, what we've done, if you look at again, it depends on the loan amount, but on a typical loan where you're looking at, a rate differential between, say, 4% and 3%, where, say, you're in the middle of the road, but again, anywhere upward or downward swing is going to either get people off the fence or on the fence. People always hoping for lower rates. Dramatically, it could be $100 or $200 difference, and $2,400 over the course of a year, and $24,000 over the course of time. New construction, I think it's a different kind of a conversation, because not only do you want the low rates, but then you also have to look at other things. For example, rising cost of materials and stuff like that. So sometimes it's sort of the battle of it. When do you wait to lock in? When do you rate? When do you get going? But the lower rates, with this particular lockdown of folks, my phone rings and rings and rings, and it's generally like that in the spring anyway. But where I thought I would see a decline, I've got a lot of folks just starting the process. A lot of them are making the inquiry, because if you look at a lot of the folks that are building, a lot of them do already own the land, so they're committed that they're going to do this at some point. The question is when. So I have a pipeline of I'm closing a gentleman tomorrow who I've been working with for 2 years. Yes, that's a long time, but he was committed 2 years ago. He's still committed today. We're still closing. But my inquiries are actually some of the folks who are just saying, how do I even get into this? We're considering it. We're finding that the market rose, and it seems that I can probably build or remodel a home into a newer home because I like the neighborhood, so that they're looking at it. And they all have the time because they're at home and they're not stuck in a commute, or they're not stuck in there. So there's extra time, and we're considered essential employees, so we're working.
So that most of my clients are custom homes, stick built, kind of from scratch type thing. And I feel like the people that I talk to on a daily basis, although on social media, I'm seeing all negative stuff. When I'm talking to people, I'm hearing confidence in their voice. I'm hearing people that are interested in going out and doing something now. And I guess part of that, like you said, is it's spring. So construction loans are still available, right?
Yes.
And how does, in a market like right now, which I think people are feeling that there's some volatility, how does it work with a construction loan to a 30-year permanent loan? Take me through that, and is the current market changing that at all?
Again, my world is going to be a little different because it is very geared towards construction, and we're construction friendly. There's a lot of bad information out there. Even when I speak, call it on tour for some of the different builder shows and conferences around the country, as a featured speaker, it's shocking how many builders come up or consumers or people just in the crowd going, I didn't know a bank was actually looking for this type of business. They're in my world, and again, with the lack of information or good information, you sell what you got, right? So some folks are just getting to a person who's offering them 2-time close or 3-time close loans, or loans that need long-term rate locks and high fees. That's not always the case. There are lenders out there where they will close on a 30-year fixed from the get-go. So you'll know, and interest rates are comparable, if not the same, as a 30-year fixed in the market today. So if you see rates of 3.5 where the market's at, that's about where they would be. So when it comes to calculating a payment, that is the payment that they will have, and it's not a guesswork of, well, I'm qualifying today, but what is my payment going to be
Right.
6
That's what
months or
people
9
ask
months
me.
down the road? Yeah. So the only unknown in construction really is appraisal values and, say, future taxes. So that's when calculating the payment, we do have to sort of take educated guesses as to where that's going to come in. And we do define those numbers through the process. But from a 30-year mortgage standpoint, if you're deltaing out the math with a current rate that's posted, you're going to be very close to where a construction loan offering is, again, depending on the bank ultimately.
Yeah. So you're doing a little bit of guesstimation, but you've been pretty good as long as we've worked together. I think all of my clients have always been happy with you. So we have a couple projects going on together right now, you and I. And one of the questions that I always get from new potential clients, and instead of me answering the question, I'm going to put it out there for you. Do you like people, if they're looking at a piece of property and they're getting in the thought process of a construction loan, do you want them to go out, buy that piece of property and then come to you, or do you want them to talk to you first?
I prefer to talk to people way sooner than later, really because it sets the tone. They can get some information out from us as far as what the process is going to be like. It also allows us to champion you and to sort of support some of the things that you're telling them, because just like you hear the commenting from the client on the banking process, we hear the comments from the building process, and we can
all good stuff about builders though, right?
Oh, all good stuff. But again, how
Yes.
like we're consumers, you and I. So like
Yes.
whenever something seems to get bumpy, right away there's a panic, and as a partner, we're able to like say, no, this is normal. It's normal to say have this kind of a delay or this kind of a question. So the sooner that they understand the process, because in the mortgage world, it's the W-2s and pay stubs and 1040s, all the stuff that we look at on the day-to-day. But what really changes is going to be from that point on. It derails because you're dealing with terms like after improved value. You're looking at subject to, you're looking at total cost and acquisition. Some banks will require a seasoning, others do not. So what that means is if mom and dad have a farm or a lot and they cut it in half and they actually will, gift the land to the kids for $1, but it's worth $200. Some banks will use the $200,000 value in the equation. Others will use the dollar for 6 months or a year. So it's a very important piece of the puzzle, so that when you're structuring the mortgage, even though we know they're highly qualified, what happens if there's a credit or fraud alert that's on the credit report? It's better to find about it now than in the 30 days that they're making the application and trying to close, so that you can get it prepared and fixed while they're working up plans.
Citizens Bank has been a good part. You and Citizens have been a good partner with us. When I send clients to you, I think you mentioned this. People are hesitant to reach out to you the first time when I talk to them, and I'm always trying. They're asking me financial questions. I'm always trying to give them to you, and so I'm not in the middle, and I'm not an expert on financing. What do you like them, besides the W-2 stuff, for a construction loan? What do you like them to have knowledge of, or what do you like them to have in hand when they talk to you the first time?
They don't really need to have much other than just a simple conversation about how much do you work, make, and what towns are you looking at?
Okay.
Maybe a good budget. Like we start with two things, and you look at your, on the one side you look at the budget, and then two is the wish list, and then right in between there is going to be probably where we land, right? Because when I built my house, I wanted to build the Taj, but I didn't really have that kind of budget. So after I started with my plan with my builder and got a preliminary number, then I got the shocking side of the monthly payment. Then I started shrinking, maybe to, okay, do I really need the double floor screened in porch that my wife and I always wanted in the back of the house. Well, we probably didn't need that, and we took that out. But the idea was to really just to start with maybe some towns and some, just an estimate of where the budget may be. Because when I'm talking to folks, and I do it all over the country, I'm getting into Zillow, I'm looking at, the town, looking at supporting values,
So we're always trying to give people a project budget. We're always trying to tell them, here's what I think that house cost. Here's what I think a septic and a well cost or utility work. And before we send them to you, we're trying to give them that budget. When they come back to you and they want to come to Citizens and put in a real application, the two tools that we're always trying to give them are an architect's plan and a statement of work, right? And those are two things that the bank looks at and compares and uses for market values.
Yes. They look at they're going to look at the plans and the specs and the architectural drawings, dimensions. Dimensions are going to be the key thing.
Okay.
I don't think you want to rush the appraisal because, we do get, and the final thing I guess would say is the contract, whether it's proposal or inked, is going to be key critical. Contract. Yeah, because the appraiser is going to be the person who's going to be looking at the contract and looking at the land. And again, if there's another contract, for example, if they're buying land to build on at the same time, they have to have all those pieces to really get in there. So, but the elevations and dimensions and maybe a bit of specification, because again, is it going, well, it's you guys. So like on a higher end build, it's not going to be builder grade material, and you don't want the appraiser to misrepresent that it's a lower cost home, because that's not what you guys do. So it has to be a comparative. Okay. The interesting thing in the appraisal world, and again, I don't know that I can speak for all lending, but if you find that the appraisal that you're done based on all these things isn't adequate for one reason or another, there's an ability to contest it or review it and find if it's actually can be deemed, defective. Meaning, again, if they've gone in and they've compared a brand new build to 5 existing homes and there's new construction in the area, that would be what I would consider a defective appraisal, because not every appraiser is also versed on appraising new construction. Because again, if you think about it, they're not doing that every day. They're probably working.
It's a rarity around here. Yeah.
It's a rarity. Yeah. So, and certainly on a remodel as well, because sometimes you may do a remodel and again, they're going to look at it sometimes a little differently, but having all the tools in the toolbox when you send them out is probably ideal, which would go back to the plans, the architectural schematics, the drawings, the dimensions, elevations, your guys' input as approximate budgets and stuff like that.
So I appreciate your time today, Tom. One of the things I wanted to say to you, and I have never mentioned this, but we are working on a couple projects together. The new automated system that Citizens has, right, where I can log in and look at put in for draws. I can communicate with both Shannon from the bank and the client. I think the tool is really slick, and I think that the clients really appreciate being able to look at it live, see what's going on with payments, with draws and things like that. I think it's really a nice system. It saved me a lot of time, actually.
I mean, it's good to hear. Again, as I said, I do stuff all over the country, and I get a lot of feedback on that. And again, no bank is really perfect, no system is perfect, but that system there, because again, I'm an old dog. This is a new trick. Yeah. It's sort of, you look at it and you go, is this going to work? How are my folks going to like it? It's good to hear the positive stuff. And even on the negative side of things, I've had cases where we've done a draw and the inspector missed something. That tool actually was able to help, because the builder was able to go, look at page number 3, look at photograph number 6, it's done. And we're able to okay, there it is. We because again, we're dealing with humans and there are mistakes. So it was able to continue the draw process.
In the past, if I had that problem, I'd have to go back to an old scan that we did. I'd have to write notes on it. Now I can look at it live and see it real time. I can talk to Shanna about it. We're all looking at the same thing. It really has cleaned things up. I think, like you said, I'm a little pessimistic when a new tool like that comes out because I have to learn how to
Yeah.
use it. It's a big deal for you and I at the beginning of a project, and all of a sudden you give me a new tool to use, but the tool really works. It's slick. I think the clients like it as well. So I really appreciate Citizens. They must have invested some time and money in making that work.
Yeah, I've been in the business 23 or 2 years, I guess, somewhere's around there, and I spent a lot of time with another bank that was really good. And when they sort of stopped getting out, when they got out of that segment of the industry, I went to Citizens about 7 years ago, wondering if they were committed to construction. 7 years, you fast forward. I mean, again, and anything can change at any time, of course, but it's always been very, like I had a conference call yesterday with some of my management team going, it's great that I'm able to still do my business, still live where I want to live and do what I want to do, maintain my contacts, but then have the bank committed to it. And as I'm working through the day, as things come up, we're still small enough with the division that I can send an email or a call and say, hey, I just heard this when I was at the International Builder Show. Are we looking at doing this type of financing, or what do you think about this? Or I have a builder that's got a specific need or borrower that continually keeps coming up. Can we adapt? And they take it in consideration. They made some big concessions last year between February and March that just really shocked me, just based on one suggestion. So it was really nice to be. Listen, it's a blessed industry. We're providing we're providing the American dream. As maybe it sounds a little sappy, but it's really pleasing to be part of a new build with a new client, and at the end of the day, to help. And then the kudos are very appreciated.
Well, and it is a bit corny, but I feel the same way. I get to work with people every day, trying to figure out what their dream is, putting it into reality, and when I look at it that way, it's a nice business to be in. Well, I appreciate your time, Tom. I know you're busy. It's good to talk to you. It's good to see you. For once, we only talk on the phone most of the time, but it's good to see you in the new Rona environment. And hopefully you and I are talking more often in the next couple of weeks.
That sounds good. I'm around. I work from home most of the time, so here I am.
I've never had a hard time getting in touch with you. I appreciate that. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
All right, be good.
Yep, bye.
So that's my recent conversation with Tom Coronato. I thought it was important to share it with you because there is positive stuff going on in the economy, and I wanted you to see that. I know many of the small business owners that I talk to are struggling. Everybody's struggling. This is a unique situation, but I believe that people are truly optimistic that when this thing comes to an end very soon, the economy is going to bounce back, and it's going to be a super time to do things that maybe in the past you haven't been able to do because interest rates are so low. One of those things may be build a custom home, do an addition or a renovation. And if any of that stuff is true and you're interested, feel free to reach out to myself. We're going to put Tom Coronato's information down bottom so you can reach out to him. Give us a shout. If we can answer questions, we'd love to. I appreciate you listening to this video, watching, and if you found anything interesting, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow. We appreciate it. Have a great day from GTG Builders.